Recently, the fan server for the shutdown MMO City of Heroes had been given a license by the game's original creators, NCSoft. This means that the fan server owners can continue to develop the game and may be able to improve the quality of its servers, among other things. I, however, had heard of but never played City of Heroes. I wanted to, but back in 2004, wee little Zach did not have a PC powerful enough to run it, and would not for a long time, and now, as a 33-year-old man, I have a laptop that may be able to run it. So I decided to give it a try and see what I had been missing all those years. So here's how it went. After making my account on the City of Heroes Homecoming site and downloading the launcher for free, I booted up the game and got to making my first character. Step 1 was to decide the origin of my character. As well as being a minor element to your story about where your powers came from, it does affect the gameplay a little because it affects which upgrade you are allowed to pick when it comes to your loadout. In the same step, you get to decide which campaign you're going to play. Is it the basic good and evil story, or are you going to take part in a rebellion? And I'm guessing that this was an add-on for the MMO at some point. As a new player, I stuck to the basic story to ease myself into the game, to get an idea how it works, and that was a mindset I soon turned on. I went with magic as my power source, then step 2 was to choose a playstyle. Now these determine what archetypes the game is going to suggest to you out of the 15 available. Also, I just noticed that suit is groping that ear somewhat fierce. There are 6 playstyles to choose from, modelled by characters who I absolutely recognise and I'm not totally guessing the name of for cheap comedic effect. So you can be a tank like Captain Cuba, you can be a melee fighter like Luke Fist, ranged fighter like Chili Soldier, specialise in crowd control like Jean Grayscale, be a supporter like Kinky Lantern, or pets like the Vegan Dominatrix. As I would be playing on my own, I went for pets because it supposedly works in solo, but also with fake pets I could pretend I wasn't lonely. Now step 3 is the archetype. Depending on your chosen playstyle, the ones the game offers will vary. Evidently, there are a lot of combinations to play with, but with 1,000 character slots available to make, I don't think inspiration and experimentation will be limited anytime soon. Each category benefits a certain style better or worse. My logic was to be a dominator so that I could weaken foes while my pets bit at their knees. Which some of you more experienced players at home may be calling me an idiot for, and yes, I realised later this was not a good idea. Once you decide on a category, step 4 is to choose a primary and secondary power from the given sets. In the case of Dominator, the primary set is made up of an element and a control category. Each element will have a different effect on a target and its limitations, such as reducing their chance to hit, reducing their defenses as long as they are on the ground, or tasing non-bros. Once you choose a set, a list of powers comes up. You have a choice of 2 to start with, but you can see the rest to preview how you will grow. The second set was made up of assault powers, so my lineup was of a blinding main power and a sonic shriek which damages and debuffs. Now comes the best part for me. Appearance customization. Starting with proportions, you can be thick, average, tall, small, thin with legs that go on forever. However you want to be. Out of curiosity, I just wanted to see how tall 8 foot would be compared to the NPCs. It's time for some fashion, girls! There is a good size of options to choose for your character which cover a lot of cultures, eras and styles. From medieval, to futuristic, to goth kinky, to furry. There is an impressive amount of clothing options that you can have. I decided to relive the times of the game's original release date and make the most edgy looking 2000s character I could think of. So say hello to... Fuck! Say hello to Nature's Wrath. Oh, maybe not. Say hello to Earthblood, the angry, necrotic, nature-loving male version of Poison Ivy. I spent ages looking at all the options and genuinely had a lot of fun in the character creator because you know what I'm like. And even better, if you want to make multiple characters that share a uniform, you can save the costumes to use for later characters. I can even customize what my superpowers look like. Once my design was somewhat finalized, I register him as a character and then get to choose if he is a hero, villain, or yet to be decided. I went with hero and began the tutorial. An infection brought on by an alien substance is controlling people and making them go mad and attack each other. I arrive ready to assist in getting the situation under control. Oh look, another player, and at 8 feet I am a huge boy. Aside from being a tall man, like I wish I was IRL, I noticed the game is very quiet. Not just because of a lack of players, but just the game itself is very quiet. The NPCs are mute, music plays low and slow, sometimes stopping and then starting when it feels like it, and the ambience is minimum. It feels like I'm really there in the middle of a disaster. I speak silently to the NPC and he gives me my first quest, which I accidentally autocomplete by choosing the wrong option. What I was supposed to do was go to the hospital and give a serum to a doctor. Then the objective would tick over and I would have to read the terminal which teaches me about death and what happens when I do die. It results in you being brought back to a hospital. From there, you can run back to where you died and try your luck again. If you do die in a dungeon, it doesn't reset your progress and you can run back to the enemy that killed you with the damage they have retained. Then my objective says to go back down the road back to the NPC I spoke to originally, who then sends me back down the road again to talk to another NPC. Oh, this is so riveting so far. And I wish I wasn't so slow. Hey, what's this do? Talking to the next Rosa, I learn about powers and about the colour-coded names to determine strengths of enemies. Powers work via the standard click or number press mechanic that you recognise from other MMOs, and each skill, including the standard punch, has a cooldown. Learning all this information, I need to go and kill 2 enemies in riveting combat. Okay, right, I know I'm taking the piss, but I can't judge this too harshly right now. It is a 2004 title, and it's still early game. Maybe it gets better, but so far, it's looking dull, slow, and clunky. After beating down 2 contaminated druggies, I go back to the officer and then get some inspirations, which are one-use items to boost me in some fashion, be it health recovery, damage up, defense up, whatever. They do drop fairly regularly, so do not be afraid to use them. With these in hand, I was instructed to go and beat up 4 more druggies to try them out. But then, at this point, I began to think. Where the hell is my pet? Should I be starting with one, given my chosen playstyle? Else what's the point of trying to be an animal overlord? So I googled it, and I could get some pets that can buff you. But to start with one, I had to play as the Mastermind archetype. One of the hardest arcs to play. God damn it. I know I'm super sprinting before I can crawl here, but now I'm curious just how hard is it? So I quit the game, remake Earthblood, and swapped around the necessary skills. What I was surprised to see is that Mastermind isn't limited to animals like I thought it would be. I could actually decide what kind of creatures I can summon. Animals, henchmen, robots. This character creation system has me so intrigued to try out as many variants of hero as I can. I may have not gotten far into the game, but so far I am very impressed and satisfied with just how much customization can go into your character in both look and capabilities, especially for a 2004 game. Even when you swap costumes in-game, you can customize how it happens. With my new build, I could now summon an insect swarm to deal damage and caught up to where I was in the tutorial. As I did, I leveled up and got several boosts for a short time. However, I wouldn't be able to benefit from a level up until I made it to the first main city. I also grabbed what's called an enhancement. These are kind of like artifacts that can be attached to your skills to make them stronger and combined together, which could result in something stronger. And I would absolutely need to find more or keep combining them, as the enhancements wear off if they don't keep up with your character level. Continuing on, I spoke to my first superhero NPC, Coyote. He gave me the chance to attempt my first dungeon. Wait, his name is Matthew Bragg? Before I tried it, I took a look at my power tab and saw a few other skills I hadn't noticed, which gave me new ways to stack up speed bonuses for my character. So much so that I can get across maps so quick that I hardly ever touch the floor. So as a personal rule, when I make a video about an MMO, I only play to level 7. Mainly because I want these videos to encourage people to give it a try, and so you've still got something to discover yourself, to try and entertain you while documenting my first time playing, and also because I don't get the same luxuries as YouTubers like Mitch Mannix, who can play for hours to get a lot of footage and cover every single aspect, without worrying about losing traffic to the overlord that is the algorithm. Seriously, once I left YouTube for 2 weeks after my last video to make a new one, and YouTube punished me for it. Anyway, tangent over. The dungeons, or at least the early ones, during my time playing, weren't anything to write home about. They can get more intense later in the game, but they are very basic right now. Apart from maybe an objective would differ, you were going from room to room, fighting the same enemies in similar looking environments. Nothing along the lines of needing an item to open a specific locked door, or needing to explore to complete multiple objectives at the same time. I played one dungeon with the objective of killing a boss at the end, and I didn't even realise he was the boss because he didn't stand out in any way other than generic devil worshipping street gang member. Oh yeah, the first street gang you fight are devil worshippers, but that's a side note. Again, later dungeons could be better, but I haven't gotten that far yet. In my first dungeon, I met Flower Knight, who was going to act as an NPC ally through the dungeon. Most of the time she just stood there and occasionally did something with a bow. I see this is the equivalent of Hawkeye in this world. Towards the end of the dungeon, I ended up picking up 2 clues. I had no idea what they were at first, but the bare basics is that it's a bit of lore that fills you in on the mini plot that you are currently doing. I think it would have been cool if you had to use these clues to solve a puzzle of some kind to unlock the next mission in the arc, but it is what it is. We weren't that creative yet in terms of gaming. Right now all we've got is a game that is half MMO and half book. A few more enemies later, I completed the dungeon to a triumphant victory tune. So inspired. With victory in hand, I left the dungeon and... where do I go now? There's no objective marker. So it turns out I had to go back to the original quest giver. I had to figure that out myself by checking my contacts. Whenever you talk to an NPC in-game, there is a chance they'll become a contact. A contact is basically a quest giver, and if you build up enough relationship with them, you gain the benefit of being able to call them. Which basically means that when you have handed in a quest, you can hand it in from where you stood instead of having to run back to them. But these contacts aren't permanent, and sometimes they just disappear when they have no need of you anymore. Oh, makes me think of high school all over again. Heading back to Coyote, he teleports me to Atlas Park, meaning I am now in the main game, the first main city, and I can finally level up by talking to Miss Liberty. Every time you get to level up, your carrying capacity for your items will increase, but other times you may get new skills, get to add slots to existing skills so you can put more upgrades into them, and at later levels you can get additional skills from another skill tree if you so wish to. At level 2, I am given 2 basic skills but can choose a new one from my selected sets. So I unlock the ability to summon my own doggo. Look at him. Look at him again. He is good boy. I named him Aquila. Points if you get the reference. Much as I love my fur baby, he occasionally gets stuck in dungeons, so I have to dismiss and resummon him to get him back. But it's worth it. Look at that floof. I did have more objectives to do, but I had the brand new playground, and I wanted to explore it. Starting off by ruining an interview, I beelined to the tailor to see what I could get. Now, I couldn't buy any new costume pieces, they were all available. In the proper game, you would have to pay to change your look. But, thankfully, this is free in the fan server, but the game does give you quite a few slots to have multiple costumes, with more you can earn. When you're at the tailor, you can also take customization further by being able to edit your walks, runs, and jumps. After making a civilian attire, I checked the map to see what else I could visit. There was a few shops, but there were landmarks marked with different things like exits, travel spots. Is that a pay-to-win shop? It is. A literal pay-to-win shop. Well, thankfully there are no microtransactions in the game, and all of these items can be earned with in-game currency. But some of them are free to acquire now, so I got myself a dark fairy pet to buff my defense, who ironically dies all the time. Then I got some new attacks and some new traversal skills. The rest of the shops either sell enhancements or inspirations. With my shopping spree done, I carried on with the main missions. These missions got pretty tedious fairly quick. They would either go here and beat X number of X enemy, or go to this dungeon that feels like the other ones you've done before and finish it. Not only do the missions feel too similar, but with a fast respawn rate on the enemies, trying to get a mission done or to the mission can be a burden because you may clear the way, then the enemy runs off to get reinforcements, dragging over more enemies, and then the original ones respawn in an endless cycle of knockouts. Although with my skill set, I think I'm doing more than just knocking them out. On occasion, you might get a tip. A tip is basically an acquirable mission. Doing said mission will put you on an arc of alignment missions. When you get to the end, you get access to a morality mission, which will give you the option to change from good to evil and vice versa, if you want to. Now I was in the main game, no outstanding events in terms of the plot or gameplay was happening. I met a few more characters and got to explore their superhero base before they were attacked by all of 2 enemies. I continued to meet contacts and do missions for them, the same missions that is. Also, I'm pretty sure I did the tutorial in the wrong order, as I was being taught things towards level 5 that I was already doing. With enough grinding though, I managed to advance to the next city and it looked just as uninspired as the first one. And there was even less to do here. Just more missions and less shops. Before wrapping up to start the script, I decided I was going to try the other starts and alliances to see if they varied at all. City of Villains obviously has you playing as a villain, but instead of fighting infected druggies, you're breaking out of a prison. This one is slightly more involving as it has cutscenes, it needs you to plant a bomb, and introduces choices. The main missions in the main game follow the same formula as the heroes, even down to the objectives and how often you do the same mission, just with a darker environment. The neutral start is both better and worse than the other tutorial sections. It starts with a comic which shows Galactic City under attack from aliens, with both heroes and villains caught in the middle. It's also got voice acting! A bit.
Blue Spectrum is up ahead. If you can find him, he can help you escape.
And it even lets you experience a giant monster fight. However, you're required to make the choice of whether or not you will be hero or villain way too early, so you don't get the chance to meet the characters and listen to their appeals for you to join their side. While this tutorial is more polished, you don't get as much benefits as you would from completing the villain or hero ones. Play this one if you want to experience some of the later game a little earlier, but if you want the best start, either play the villain or hero ones to get the items to power you up. The Going Rogue Origins has fewer archetypes and you don't get to choose an alignment going in. It's another choice that happens at a pivotal moment, but a lot later than it happens in the neutral one. This one also feels like it was worked on more, as it also features cutscenes and you do get a chance to meet the cast and you do get to learn about why there is a rebellion going on so that you can make a more informed choice. You're also teased with choices that can affect certain stories and a new location to explore, but don't get too excited about that one, as it looks a lot like Atlas City with a different colour scheme, and I don't think Going Rogue is working as well as the main game yet. Regardless as to whether or not you decide to be a rebel or a loyalist, you go to the same city filled with reused assets with the same characters switching roles as needed. I also couldn't get very far in either of these missions because for the loyalists, my second dungeon broke and wouldn't correct itself even after a restart, and for the rebels, their first dungeon was the same dungeon that the loyalists do. So for some reason I was killing rebels as a rebel, but it also broke. And I was unable to complete either of them. So do I want to keep playing? Well, you might be surprised to learn that I actually kind of want to. I know I've just said a mixture of good and bad things, probably a little more bad than good. And it's true that it is repetitive, kind of uninspired, looks dated, slow to get going, lacking in some quality and is relying a lot on player nostalgia to attract players. It has so much customization that you can make such a unique character in both look and skills, with a lot of potential to make yourself very powerful or even a powerful team if you have the right friends. I'm trying not to judge it harshly as it is a turn of the millennia game, but as an early MMO, it is ahead of its time and I can see why people are happy it's back. Being able to fine tune your builds as well as your identity, some of the challenges that you do face later on in the game, some of the harder dungeons, it all encourages you to experiment, discover and theorize so that you can dominate the PvE and PvP fights. So if you're looking for a story-driven experience with a lot of lore, memorable moments and fun characters, you might find that depending on which origin you choose, but you won't find much of it if you play the main game. If, on the other hand, you are a power gamer and are looking to become as powerful as you can be, while looking for ways to make a ridiculously broken build, then I think you're going to enjoy this. There is still some content I haven't reached or spoken about in great detail, like the raids, owning a base, making a league, flying combat, creating your own missions, group dungeons, and a lot more to do. And of course, with the licensing, this game can start developing to try and do things even better. It's a slow start, but will eventually turn into something pretty good. Not fantastic, but pretty good. Either way, this was just how my experience went. It is free to try, so what do you have to lose to come to your own conclusion and try it out for yourself? And if you have played it already, either recently or back in 2004, what's your experience of it? Am I missing something? Am I right? Am I wrong? As always, your thoughts are welcome down below. Thanks for watching everyone, and remember you're always welcome at the Spectrum.